Hello, I'm Dean Martin with Transmission Digest. Welcome to the TranStar Industry Studios here at Babcock's Media.
Automatic transmission diagnosis and repair has always been somewhat of a chore. Add in computers, and many times it can become a nightmare. You can have more than one CPU, whether you call it a PCM, ECM, TCM, and so on. But the addition of computers has made working on transmissions much more difficult than it used to be. Diagnosing a step-type transmission has its own challenges, but diagnosing a CVT is, in many cases, a lot worse. Knowing whether a CVT is actually slipping or you have an incorrect ratio is certainly more challenging than a step-type transmission. Add in the question, is this problem transmission-related or computer-related, has become more of an issue. And NISSAN has had some issues with some of their CVTs, and they've actually issued bulletins about reprogramming. So you can have like a Sentra or a Versa with a particular CVT, and if the transmission doesn't operate properly, you can go right to the transmission, or preferably you want to make sure that the computer programming is up to speed. NISSAN has issued TSBs on this issue, and it would make sense to actually reprogram the TCM and even the ECM to make sure that this shifting or operation issue is not computer related. Depending on model of vehicle and the particular problem, you can reprogram the ECM or TCM, and when they reprogram, it actually sets things like resets. Even in the case of a JFO15, which is actually a shifting CVT, if you can imagine, they will have what they consider a clutch point learn, and there's a whole procedure that you have to follow to make sure that not only is the ratio of the pulleys correct, but even the up and down shifting of the transmission, because it's basically a two-speed with a CVT, to make sure that all of that is correct. And that's why you should probably try reprogramming before the transmission is addressed, unless it's obvious that the transmission is bad. When it comes to NISSAN vehicles, specifically with JATCO CVTs, not only do you have the ECM and TCM to deal with, but there is a third CPU that goes into the vehicle, and this is mounted right on the valve body. This is actually a valve body out of a JFO15E, and it has normal solenoids and pressure switches, but what it also has is a ROM unit. This is a third CPU, if you will. This ROM unit collects data from the solenoids and other components and uploads to the TCM. Having this ROM unit attached to the valve body means it's much more difficult to interchange valve bodies, kind of like a Tecum on a General Motors vehicle. So you just can't swap valve bodies because of the information stored in the ROM, and when you do programming, you're programming the TCM or ECM, not the ROM unit. So before you start wrenching, make sure of what the condition is. Make sure if it does require computer programming that you follow the NISSAN procedures. And if necessary, if you have to replace the valve body, you're going to have to do reprogramming because of the ROM unit. But make sure all CPU programming is done before you disassemble the transmission, rebuild it, put it back in, find out you have the same problem. I'm Mike Riley. Thanks for watching. See you next time.